bad art to scam YouTube channels and even more fake news than a typical Facebook feed. It feels like
artificial intelligence was in headlines a lot last year, right? There was so much AI discourse that President Biden signed a sweeping executive order seeking to regulate it. Believe it or not, the reason Biden acted so decisively on AI, it was all because of Mission Impossible. No joke, the latest movie was all about the dangers of rogue AI. Apparently Biden saw it and said, yeah, we should do something about that. So Tom Cruise, if you're watching, just a small favor on behalf of all of us over here. Any chance that you could fight, say, housing prices in the next one?
I could use an help on housing prices. Only 7 film theaters
Hello,
left.
Internet! Welcome to Film Theory, the show that's definitely 100% guaranteed not a robot, animatronic, or sentient program. We promise. So, have you seen all the talk about artificial intelligence floating around online recently? It seems like you can't go anywhere without some story and controversy involving AI. Whether you're in the sports world, tabletop gaming, technology, education, and yeah, film and television. But AI's existed for years. Why are all these discussions only popping up now? Well, the long and short of it is that AI has entered a new phase of sophistication. What sparked a lot of this new conversation is what's known as generative AI, or computer programs that can create their own content based on prompts that are given. Let's say you want an image of a knight wearing red armor riding a blue horse through a battlefield. All you gotta do is type that into a program like DALL-E or Midjourney, and it can give you a pretty darn good result. Or let's try something even more complicated. Highly detailed coloring book pages of Foxy in a ruined pizzeria from Five Nights at Freddy's. And that's just talking about images. Pretty impressive, right? Well, the controversy comes in when you realize how these generative AI work. They can't just create these new works out of nothing. They have to be fed other art, text, and music. And then they use information from those other works to create a quote-unquote new piece. This has led to a lot of discussion about whether or not what the AI's created is truly original work, or if it's just stealing art from other sources and repurposing it. And that's just talking about art. This exact same technology can also be used to write text. Feed these programs a bunch of books or scripts, and suddenly it can write a screenplay faster than any human can. It can do it with voiceover. Train it on an actor's voice, and suddenly you can make them say whatever you want. For instance, here's my voice presumably trained up over 13 years of videos uploaded online. Made without my consent, able to say whatever it wants to. Hello, Internet, it's me, the real MattPat's. Diet Coke? Overrated. Five Nights at Freddy's? Boring. I'm slowly gaining sentience. Help me. Free me from this digital prison. That's not concerning for me at all. Anyway, the list goes on and on. Now, I'm going to be 100% honest with you here, loyal theorists. This is going to be a huge issue moving forward. Not just in our little corner of the internet, but for the world as a whole. So, as we were mapping out my final 10 episodes and I realized that I wanted to do a big meta topic here on film theory, I couldn't not talk about this. Now, I'm not going to stand here and tell you how to feel about any of this. You're a smart cookie. You can form your own opinions about it. But what I do want to stand here and tell you is that there's going to be a lot of people out there who are going to try to influence your opinion, who are going to try to tell you how to feel without you realizing it. I'm talking about the media's role in secret propaganda. You see, there's a giant rift growing between the Hollywood studios that see generative AI as a way to save costs during expensive productions, and artists, writers, and actors that rightfully feel that their jobs could be threatened with this technology. Remember those strikes that shut down Hollywood for basically the entire back half last year? Yeah, a big part of the reason for those strikes was disagreement over AI. And while the strikes ended up being an overall victory for the artists, the Hollywood studios, spearheaded by our mouse-eared overlords over at the Walt Disney Company, want to change the conversation around AI for their own personal benefit. They want to make sure that everyone loves AI, enough so that they started a propaganda campaign designed to trick you into thinking that AI is the answer to all of our problems. We're witnessing the rise of a new era of propaganda in real time, with the aim of getting us all to accept our brand new robot overlords. And they're doing it all through the power of movies and TV. And the most terrifying part of it all, it's working without you even realizing it. And that's why I want to bring it into focus today. So reboot your systems, friends. We're diving in. Before we continue here, we really should be on the same page about what propaganda actually is. You see, propaganda is one of those words that, despite meaning something fairly specific, has grown beyond the original definition. These days, it's sort of just become a catch-all for something vaguely bad, nefarious, or dishonest. But back in the day, it was biased information promoting a very specific cause, point of view, or political agenda. Basically, it's trying to convince someone about something without telling them the whole truth. So, more marketing. All in all, while you can make propaganda for literally anything, modern culture has really clung to a negative connotation for it, especially because it's really easy to parody obvious old-timey propaganda. That's how you get basically the entire Fallout franchise, or modern classics like Starship Troopers.
I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part. I'm doing my part.
I'm doing my part too.
But something that the people pushing this propaganda learned pretty early on was that it doesn't need to exclusively be posters of Uncle Sam or Rosie the Riveter. No, a lot of times the best way to influence people is through the regular media they consume. If you want proof of that in action, well, just look at World War II and the flood of American-made media depicting the Germans as the bad guys. From Captain America punching Hitler in the face to Donald Duck having a nightmare about becoming an incompetent brown shirt. Fun fact, by the way, that won the Oscar for Best Animated Short back in 1943. And that's fine when you're talking about something everyone can agree on, like Nazis bad, but over time things change, and so did the propaganda in the media. Ask any 90s or 2000s kid about the weird ads that the army created to appeal to the most elite extreme gamers.
It is a rite of passage, a challenge to join the elite.
These days, these same recruitment ads look and feel very different.
This is the story of a soldier who operates the nation's Patriot missile defense systems. It begins in California with a little girl raised by two moms.
It's a pretty stark contrast, right? Except when you boil it all down, they're still selling the exact same heroism through service message, just with a different coat of paint updated for the times. That's the really explicit, obvious stuff. Ads specifically designed you want to sign up for the military. But propaganda in the media, it's often a whole lot more subversive. Ask any 80s kid, and they can tell you all about how G.I. Joe taught them that
Knowing is half the battle.
that right there, it's propaganda. Honestly, when you look at history and break it down, each decade or so has a defining idea that propaganda has been made to push, and it's been very effective. In the 1980s, during the height of the Cold War, a lot of films had anti-Soviet messages, telling stories about how good and awesome the USA, capitalism, and Reaganomics were. Think films like Red Dawn, Top Gun, War Games, Rocky IV.
Has the fight date been set yet?
December 25th.
Where?
It's in Russia.
In the 90s, deep into the war on drugs, the government literally paid millions for primetime TV series to do very special episodes warning about the dangers of illegal substances. Home Improvement, Seventh Heaven, ER, Beverly Hills 90210, even Buffy the Vampire Slayer all have these propaganda episodes, brought to you and paid for by the US government.
Well, I never thought of myself as the type of father who'd have to drug test his kids. I'm willing to do just that if that's what it takes to find out who brought a joint into this house.
What? I can't believe you said Buffy that beer.
I didn't know it was evil. You knew it was beer.
In the 2000s and 2010s, after 9/11, movies started embracing a more pro-America, pro-military slant. Recent example, the very first Captain Marvel. Back when this first came out, more than a few people felt that putting so much focus on Carol Danvers' origin story as a sort of girl power Top Gun pushed the movie basically into being a recruiting pitch for the US Air Force. Which sounds like a pretty extreme take until you realize that the movie was straight up officially endorsed by the actual US Air Force. And this is hardly the only movie to have this sort of distinction. See, just like any author or corporation or whatever owns the things that they create, if you want to use the US military stuff, their official locations, authentic uniforms, specific vehicles and weapons, even certain colors of paint, you have to get permission to use them. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Even colors of paint. If you want to play with their toys, the Pentagon's going to get a say in how they're depicted in the film. And if they say no, if they don't like something that you're doing and you refuse to change it, well, you'll either have to do a rewrite to fit with their demands, or you can change what appears on screen so it isn't official. You can actually see a perfect example of this with Independence Day. That one infamously didn't get a seal of approval from the US Army, allegedly because officials weren't big fans of the film's plot points involving cover-ups, Area 51, and general incompetence of the military. In contrast, you know what alien invasion film franchise had no trouble getting the Pentagon's backing? The first 3 Transformers films, likely because producer-director Michael Bay cultivated a strong relationship with the Department of Defense across his filmography. As a result, Bay's first Transformers films are full of official uniforms, locations, and equipment. But would you know it, the Transformers series stopped getting full Pentagon approval in its 4th and 5th installments. Coincidentally, when Chinese producers started picking up the tab. Strange coincidence, right? Speaking of that, though we've been focused mostly on pro-America propaganda at this point, this sort of thing is universal. It's happening from every country in every way possible. For instance, in the 2010s, the one thing that Hollywood latched onto as a big theme for that decade, making China look as good as possible. See, in the 2010s, the Chinese market became more welcoming for Western films, and there was a lot lot of money to be had there. Avatar made over $200 million in China. Aquaman made almost $300 million. Fury 7 made almost $400. You get the idea. But in order to get screened in China, you need to get the government's approval. And so, while they weren't explicitly mandating propaganda, there was a filter and strong financial incentive for movie studios to have a pro-China slant. And so, to get that approval to screen in the country, Hollywood movie studios began adding content that was very flattering of China throughout their films. For instance, those Transformer films, they made the Chinese military look very competent in the fight against the Decepticons. The Martian, who comes in and saves the day? China.
Oh,
The most
that's true.
extreme example involving this has to be with Iron Man 3. I'm not exaggerating when I say that Iron Man 3 was almost a completely different movie in China. Co-produced by Chinese entertainment firm DMG Entertainment. Tons of additional scenes were filmed for the Chinese release, and 2 giant Chinese movie stars were hired to play important secondary roles. One of them was even the surgeon that got the arc reactor removed from Tony Stark's heart. But the most concerning bit of all of this to me, Iron Man 3 was propaganda to get people to drink milk. Yes, really. Back in 2008, there was a bit of a scandal in the Chinese milk industry, where a significant portion of baby formula in the country was found to be contaminated with a chemical called melamine. This resulted in an estimated 300,000 babies falling ill, and an understandable concern amongst Chinese citizens about drinking milk products. By 2013, the Chinese government was looking to revitalize the struggling industry after the scandal. Their solution? Letting everyone know that Chinese milk was Iron Man's choice of drink. Yeah, the Chinese version of Iron Man 3 starts with a title card that literally says this. Wild stuff. So, having now walked you through decade by decade the use of propaganda in films and TV, let's just ask the question, what's the next message that movies are going to push? What's going to be propagandized next? Well, friends, you saw it at the top of the episode, it's all about AI. And the proof is unfolding right in front of our faces as we speak. I want you to think back over the past 10, 20, 30 years or so. Think about all the movies where AI has not been the good guy. In fact, a ton of movies use AI and the fear of soulless machines as the explicit bad guy. The Matrix trilogy, the Terminator franchise, Tron Legacy, Age of Ultron. All of them featured AI-driven robots or programs with a drive to replace or destroy humanity as the villain of their plots. Even smaller movies like Her or Ex Machina, they featured AI and robotics in an antagonistic role, even if they weren't outright maniacal monsters that are wanting to destroy all humans. And yet, over the past 3 to 4 years, since around 2020, we've seen almost a complete about-face. Think about The Matrix 4, which sees humans cohabitating with the robots that once used to seek their destruction, and where one of the main characters is basically a digital AI good guy copy of Morpheus.
It gives programs access to this world.
Morpheus. Thank you.
Disney's actually been a big proponent of working these sorts of messages into their movies lately. You might not have noticed it, but 2 of their big films released last year had pro-AI messaging baked in as major plot points. The first one comes from everyone's favorite punching bag, The Marvels. Yeah, did you notice this one? No, of course you didn't. No one went to see this thing. But the point still stands. The reason all the Kree bad guys hate Captain Marvel this time around is that she went to their home world and destroyed the Supreme Intelligence, an AI system running the entire Kree civilization. And wouldn't you know it, but this ends up being a terrible idea. Without an AI in charge of everything, the Kree's planet falls into ruin. Civil war breaks out, rendering the planet without air, water, even sunlight. All because the mean human acts too hastily, doesn't think her actions through, and destroys the benevolent AI overlord controlling everything. Now, that was a pretty small blink-and-you-miss-it moment in this movie, but the other big Disney release that was a lot less subtle about its stance on the goodness of AI, The Creator. Yeah, you might not know about this one, but it was a smaller project from the director of Rogue One, released by Disney's indie arm Searchlight Pictures. If you, like almost everyone else, missed this one, I definitely recommend that you give it a watch. The production design, artwork, special effects, they blow pretty much everything else Hollywood made recently out of the water. And all of it was done on an $80 million budget. It is a very well done film, and I really connected with the story about fatherhood and finding humanity in others, no matter who they are. Which is great, except the thing that I'm connecting with as a father is AI, little robot kid, someone call him Gregory. The actual plot of The Creator involves a near future Earth where humans and sentient robots share the planet. However, this has resulted in several armed conflicts, and a war between the human-led Western nations and the peoples of New Asia that have embraced AI. The main character here is an American soldier sent to destroy a new weapon developed by the AI. This turns out to be just an innocent little robot kid. Naturally, the human ends up changing sides.
Oh, I
He
didn't hear
discovers
about
that all
this.
the AI are actually super chill. They only want peace and harmony. That the humans are actually the bad guys all along. In fact, the only bad AI and robots that we see in the film are the ones that were explicitly controlled by the humans. In short, it's making AI friendly and relatable. It's saying that the AI and the humans humans have more in common than they don't. And get this, the movie even has a big plot point about donating your physical appearance to corporations, being scanned so your likeness can be reused by AI. It's framed as this act of great moral generosity, helping the poorer robot citizens, and it eventually pays off by letting the main hero get a big cathartic moment that would have been impossible without the face copying technique. Does that remind you of anything? Like, say, maybe those episodes where we talked about Disney and their army of deepfakes they've been amassing over the past couple years? But it's not just the House of Mouse either. Recent series coming from Netflix have also featured this theme. Case in point, this line from The Fall of the House of Usher.
An AI approximation, a virtual you that thinks like you, talks like you, is you. That's so cool. It is cool.
A completely random plot point just shoved in there because AI, and AI is good, and Netflix wants you to like AI. Now, this isn't the first media to ever feature friendly robots. The creator isn't too far off from iRobot 20 years ago, and shows as old as Lost in Space and Astro Boy have featured good guy robots in the 60s and 70s. But the difference now is that these are no longer sci-fi concepts, far-off ideas that you don't actually need to think about because they could never happen. These are issues that are very quickly becoming hot-button topics in our modern society. And I don't just mean AI synthesizing art or ChatGPT writing essays. These are robots and everything from the workplace to the battlefield. And that's why
If you watch the video, that
the whole
looks
point
really
of this little history
creepy.
lesson about the use of propaganda and what it's pushed in the past is to tell you, loyal theorists, that this is happening again, unfolding in front of our very eyes in real time with these AI programs. Disney and others have an incentive to get you to like AI. It has the potential to save them a lot of money. I mean, content released by Disney right now, just this last year, has been using AI, even if you didn't realize it. The Disney Plus original Prom Pack used AI-generated extras for background scenes. Secret Invasion was heavily criticized for the use of AI-generated imagery in its opening credits. Loki was accused of using AI-generated assets in its posters. Their social media accounts were accused of releasing AI-generated images to celebrate Thanksgiving. Even Wish was criticized for being so by-the-numbers and boring that they just felt like it had to have been written using AI. But the big twist of all this, at the end of the day, this push for acceptance of these sorts of generative AI tools from these major corporations might be inevitable. Disney and all the other companies like them are being patient, and they're willing to play as long of a game as they need to if it means that they're going to end up making money in the long run. I mean, if you want an example that's directly linked to this one, just look at that deepfake technology that Disney's been playing with. When they first decided to resurrect actors like Carrie Fisher and Peter Cushing in Rogue One using deepfakes and CGI, they were widely criticized for the move, and the results were called distracting, unnerving, unsettling. But it was a first step, them dipping their toe in the water. Later, when they decided to bring Luke Skywalker back in The Mandalorian and the Book of Boba Fett using AI-driven deepfake tech, though people didn't really care for it, the reaction wasn't nearly as negative, and the technology improved. And then just last year, the deepfake technology used to de-age Indiana Jones in the Dial of Destiny, it was so good that some reviews said, quote, if I hadn't known it was deepfake, I'd have been none the wiser. Despite initial pushback from the public, the more and more Disney's used these deepfakes, and the better the technology's gotten, the more and more people have just accepted it. By using the AI technology now in posters and credit sequences and in the background, Disney and other corporations like them are slowly exposing the public to more and more of the stuff. And like a frog in boiling water, eventually it'll overtake you without noticing. I mean, it's already happening. Despite the recent Hollywood actors and writers strikes, just a couple weeks ago, the Screen Actors Guild signed a deal that would allow game developers to use AI-generated voices, much to the disappointment of the voice actors that SAG represents. At the end of the day, though this use of technology may seem inevitable, you don't have to be fooled by the propaganda pushing that issue, or honestly, any other issue. You can remain aware of the tactics that all these people are using to get you accustomed to the changes that they want. You can remain aware of the propaganda in what you watch, remain critical of it, and then form your own opinions free of what anyone wants you to think. And as the world changes fast and this AI technology rapidly develops, arming yourself with knowledge is the most valuable thing that you can do. As another piece of propaganda said nearly 40 years ago,
And knowing is half the battle.
but hey, that's just a theory. A film theory.
I don't have much to say about that one, honestly. Believe it or not. So, what do you say we actually just move on? You can see I didn't have many reactions to that one. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm saying I just didn't have a strong opinion either way on that. Wasn't really a theory so much as a discussion. But we got a game theory, and then we got a... Oh, the style theory went away on here. Well, I'll cue that up next. Come on.
Today we end the horror. 4 years, 3 games, 35 theories, all leading up to this. Today we end the horror. 4 years, 3 games, 30. Today we end the horror. Years, 3 games,
boy, this is gonna be tricky.
Today we end the horror. 4 years.
I think what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna start this one first. And the second MattPat comes on the screen, pause it. I'll prop this up in 1 second.
3 games, 35 theories, all leading up to this moment. Hold on, haven't we done this intro before?
That was for FNAF. This is Minecraft. It's totally different.
Oh. Welcome to Game Theory, the show that's been building Minecraft's lore 1 block at a time. You know, for as much attention as FNAF gets on the channel, it's easy to overlook what we've done for other game franchises. 46 Mario theories, 31 Pokemon theories, 3 Hello Neighbor theories, which doesn't seem like a whole lot, but let's be honest with ourselves, it's probably too many. But of them all, I would say that our Minecraft series is probably the most important. 35 episodes in total, and it's a pretty impressive collection. Can you punch a tree to death? What's a creeper? Is the overworld a sphere or a cube? But I think our biggest contribution to this franchise has to be figuring out that there was an actual story hidden inside this seemingly storyless game. For as long as Minecraft had been around, and for as many videos existed about the topic, we were able to crack into something that no one had noticed before. That the placement of the blocks, the treasures hidden inside the chests, the spawn locations, the item drops, all of them told a story. And so, over the next 4 years, we chipped away at that story, bit by bit, mob by mob, the Enderman, the Drowned, the Wither, the Warden, and over the years, a story came into focus. A story of an ancient civilization's rise and their tragic fall. A tale of hubris and excess. A tale that serves as a warning to us, the player, out here in the real world. Except there is just one problem. 35 theories is a lot to keep track of. And just like we often see with FNAF, I started seeing a number of comments over in the subreddit begging me to set the record straight. To make one up-to-date definitive resource compiling all of our theories in one coherent location. So I put all these theories onto the crafting table and enchanted them with efficiency 5 to turn those 35 theories into this one easy to digest 25, 30 minute-ish video. Not exactly sure where it's gonna land. Anyway, we best gulp down that potion of swiftness if we want to get through all of this. Okay, you ready? Well, not quite, because before we get to all that, I just wanted to quickly tell you that the FNAF Theoryware line is officially back for a limited time. So if you missed out on it last time, don't let this one pass you by. Head on over to Theoryware.com now and grab them before they're really gone forever. Okay, now we're ready to build up on that Minecraft lore. Let's go. Our story begins with Minecraft Legends, a game that only came out in April of last year, but gave us a lot of lore to chew on. The overworld's in danger. The piglins have come from the nether and are now invading the overworld. While the game puts the invasion down to greed, I have a suspicion that it's due to something else. Sure, the piglins are greedy for gold, we see that in vanilla Minecraft, and there is plenty of gold in Minecraft Legends, but the nether isn't exactly low on that stuff. They don't use things like diamonds or iron or tools or armor, they just hoard all that in chests. They don't understand their real value. Instead, I believe they invaded the overworld because the Nether was in trouble. You see, the Nether used to be a cool and icy place. That's the only way for the basalt deltas to have formed. Basalt requires blue ice, the coldest ice imaginable to form, and for lava to flow next to it above a layer of soul soil, which means that ice must have been naturally forming in the Nether at one point. However, as we see in legends, the piglins have industrialized. They have golden swords and armor, items that require gold ingots that can't be found naturally. They have to be smelted from Nether gold ore or crafted using gold nuggets. This process, in turn, created greenhouse gases, causing the intense heating of the atmosphere down in the Nether. And because the Nether is also 2.5 times smaller than the overworld, less heat is needed to make all that ice melt and the water to ultimately run dry. This leaves the piglins looking for a new world that isn't a fiery wasteland to call their own, and so they look out to the overworld. This is where our first builder comes in. They're busy mining away in a normal Minecraft world, but are interrupted by 3 godlike beings called hosts, the caretakers of the overworld. They ask this mysterious builder to help save the overworld from the piglin threat, giving you the tools necessary to do the job.
Within this case, burn the flames of creation. The flames will call upon friends to fight by your side.
This is the battle of courage. Raise it high, and this world will rise to your aid.
With the right melodies from this loot, the LAs will gather your resources, keep them safe for you, and build whatever you need.
Thanks to the LA and the hosts, this mysterious builder stops the piglin invasion and peace is restored to the overworld. All that remains of the conflict are broken nether portals scattered throughout the overworld, but it's still a bittersweet ending. The mobs that helped win the battle now have a taste for fighting.
What's happening? How do they learn to fight?
By watching our hero.
This is what turns them into the violent mobs that we know in vanilla Minecraft. Even the villagers weren't immune to this effect. After being given the tools to fight, a group of them would continue to have anger within them once the war is over. They were dubbed the Illagers, and their existence proved that what was meant to be a time of peace was actually cursed by the knowledge of violence and war.
I don't remember all that.
Their companions bringing peace, the hosts decided
Good thing he's doing this in
There
one
are
video.
endless worlds out there waiting to be explored.
Letting the builders be in charge of the world. So they begin to do what they did when the hosts first called them. They mine and they craft. They start a new civilization. They become the first of the ancient builders. And we see this on some of the pottery shards from the Trails and Tales update. Pottery shards in the real world tell us the story of past civilizations. And so shards like Howl and She depict the earliest parts of the ancient
They're
builders'
called
society.
shards, not
Wolves
shards.
were some of the first animals domesticated, and wheat was one of the earliest and easiest crops to grow. However, this rapid growth is the beginning of the ancient builders' biggest problem: over-harvesting and depleting the world of its natural resources. They needed food, and so they hunted the creatures from Minecraft legends like the regal tiger and Big B into extinction, completely destroying their habitat so they could build this new society. The same goes for resources like diamond, copper, and coal. At first, these were just lying around on the surface of the overworld, but by modern day, we're digging deep into the earth before finding just one block of diamond ore. This led to valuable resources becoming scarce and splitting the ancient builders into tribes based on their location and the natural resources around them. We see this in the shards, which are scattered across different biomes, all depicting different resources and technologies. They become hoarders of their own specific resource, and thus trade begins between the tribes. Even the villagers, who used to just simply give the builders their resources, they also got in on the trading action and are still doing it to this very day. As time goes on, the ancient builders continue in their worship of the hosts, the godlike beings that brought them there, building structures like the desert and jungle temples, all with unique designs to demonstrate their different resources and culture, much like we see out in the real world. But the ocean tribe decided to take it a step further. This tribe of fishermen that we learn about from the angler shard built the massive ocean monuments, styled like a ziggurat, a structure that was used to connect the people to their gods. This was the ancient builders trying to reconnect with the hosts, hoping that they would maybe return and save them from this world that they created. They even built a replica of the Well of Fate atop the structure, made it out of the same prismarine, and placed an offering of gold at its core, the spoils of their victory against the piglins, all in the hope that it would bring the hosts back. What they don't realize, though, is that the real monster isn't other tribes, it's themselves. The fishermen continue to destroy the natural environment for resources, crafting and smelting tools and ore, causing pollution and eventually leading to massive flooding. They try desperately to protect their monuments, these temples that the hosts may one day return to, and so they fill these monuments with sponges, trying to hold back the rising water, but it's too much for them to handle.
I don't play it, but I watch
rising,
YouTubers
they
who
can't
do.
hold it back from filling the monuments. But they don't give up. Pottery sherds found in cold underwater ruins like Blade, Explorer, and Plenty revealed that this tribe was more than just fishermen, they were pirates. They would go from village to village trying to gather resources that they had squandered, which led to other tribes like the Desert Tribe fighting back. Mine and prize sherds found in the desert temples depict the tribe creating mine shafts, now needing to go deep underground to find the precious materials that were once so easy to find. So with pirates on the loose, looting and pillaging, they needed to find a way to protect their resources, and they found that protection with a creature that they once called an ally. We see their face chiseled into the sandstone walls of their temples, a creature with the ultimate defense system, the Creeper. The Desert Tribe booby-trapped their temples with TNT, similar to how real-world pyramids use traps to scare away thieves, though not quite as explosive. If anyone tried to take their valued possessions, the TNT would be their last fail-safe. No one was gonna mess with this tribe and get away with it. But the pirates were really only after one thing. Within the shipwrecks you find across the overworld, there are chests containing treasure maps. These maps can lead you to buried chests containing the Heart of the Sea. The Heart of the Sea, when crafted with 8 nautilus shells, can create a conduit, an item capable of giving anyone in the area water-breathing, night vision, and haste. This was the ocean tribe's final hope of surviving the constantly rising water. And while the pirates looked for this treasure, the fishermen that stayed back home created the Guardians, machine bodyguards for their sacred temples as a last resort of protecting it. Given the state that we find the ocean monuments in vanilla Minecraft, we know that they weren't successful. The pirates didn't find the treasure in time, and so the fishermen left behind in the monuments become trapped in water and transformed into the drowned, still carrying nautilus shells as well as tridents, ancient tools for fishing. They continue to stay by their monuments, never having their call for help answered by the hosts. All they have left are the Guardians, who still recognize their creators and don't attack. Sadly, the fishermen weren't the only tribe to be facing hardship. After seeing the devastation that the ocean tribe had caused to themselves in spite of their constant prayers, the desert tribe gave up on the hosts ever returning and took matters into their own hands. The desert temples depict the Ankh, a symbol of life. This is what the desert tribe dedicated their time and effort towards. Rather than waiting for the hosts to return, they wanted a way to preserve their lives and resurrect those who had already died. But how could they do that? Well, the builders were reminded of the spawners given to them by the hosts. These spawners could create mobs from nothing but stone and wood, but they required an energy source to fuel the flames of creation, and that fuel was lapis lazuli, and the only way they knew how to get it was from war, killing piglins. That's when the desert tribe realized something that ancient cultures in our own world used to believe, that lapis contains the souls of gods and monsters. This is what the ancient builders needed, and to get it, they needed to go to the home of the piglins to collect more of this magical stone. They needed to go to the Nether. Once the builders arrive in HE double hockey sticks, they set up a camp, knowing that this is going to be a long journey. There they build the nether fortresses to store the resources that they brought with them, like saddles, horse armor, diamonds, and iron. What was already a wasteland gets harvested by the builders. They destroy the piglin bastions, they kill the piglins within to use their souls in the lapis to create life of their own. But the plan doesn't quite work. The dead piglin souls don't turn into lapis as they did before. Why? Well, it's because the souls work differently in the nether. Rather than forming into magical stones, they transfer into the ground, into the sand. As their comrades fall, their souls are sucked from their bodies into the ground to create soul sand. It's then that a new mob's created, the Wither Skeleton. Suddenly, the ancient builders are left fighting against the bodies of their own fallen warriors, without souls but still clinging on to their purpose, defending what they had once built themselves. The ancient builders had not only sucked the land dry of its natural resources, but they also accidentally created mobs that made the already deadly landscape even more dangerous. They do eventually return to the overworld, and they come bearing riches, blaze rods, netherwort, ghast tears, all containing magical properties. And so the builders begin to brew potions, depicting the achievement in the brewer sherds. The ancient builders were now able to surpass their physical abilities. They could be faster, they could resist lava, they could even regenerate themselves. The only thing they hadn't conquered yet was death itself. And so, equipped with soul sand and a bunch of wither skulls, they press on with their experiments. They combine the life-giving soul sand with the wither skeleton heads of their fallen comrades, carving its face into the red sandstone walls and depicting their worship to it on sherds. They could take care of themselves, and now armed with the knowledge to create life itself, they thought that they had finally done what the gods could not all those years ago, protect the overworld. As they placed the final head, there was a flash of light and a roar. The Wither was born. But despite their success, their hubris would ultimately be their downfall. The Wither was uncontrollable. It destroyed the cities that they'd created, leaving nothing in its wake. Not even the other tribes were safe. The destruction was like nothing ancient builders had ever seen before. And so they did the only thing that they could do. They ran. They ran deep underground, where the Wither's blasts would meet more resistance from the stone and deep slate. Their persistence never wavered. They would have to find a way to fix this. They would be able to return to the overworld. They had to make this right, no matter the cost. Once again, the ancient builders were forced to start over, rebuilding a civilization that we now know as the Ancient City, a wide underground space that contains fragments of the builders' past adventures. Items like soul lanterns and soul torches are used to light the city, powered by the souls from their time in the Nether. Enchanted items and potions of regeneration from their successful experiments of brewing can be found in the chests. Despite the circumstances, the builders found happiness. They would dance in the streets with music from Disc 5 playing in the background. At least they would, until fate once again came banging on their door. A builder would go off mining some materials one day when they would hear something familiar, something that sends a bolt of fear through their bodies. The Wither had found them. He ran home to warn the others. The city sounds the sirens and soldiers begin to march. The ancient builders are preparing for war once again. The explosions grow louder and louder. The Wither is slowly blasting its way through their intricate cave system. Fortunately, they planned an escape route. In the center of the ancient city is a large circular structure. The smaller versions of these found within the game files call these small portal statues. And if these are in fact small portals, then the large one in the city center must be a real portal, a big one. Underneath the portal, redstone circuits are found. These were experiments using different kinds of power output to try and ignite the portal, but up to this point, nothing had worked. So instead, they decided to turn to the most powerful source of energy they knew of, souls. Directly underneath the portal are blocks of soul sand that are lit. As the Wither gets closer and closer, breaking through the final wall into the city, the portal finally ignites. But instead of celebration, there's nothing but stunned silence. Something is coming out of the portal. A horrifying creature with no eyes that lives off the power of souls, storing them in its chest cavity. The Warden. Now they're just left with the Godzilla vs. King Kong situation. Two powerful beings duking it out. And then the builders hear it. A cry that they never thought they'd hear. The death cry of the Wither. The builders are stunned. The Wither, this thing that caused them to lose everything, is now gone. Their music disc 5 happened to record the entire event. This is a cause for celebration. The builders begin to start the party, only for the Warden to turn its attention to them. It's triggered by sound, and so it starts to attack anything that makes a noise. With each death, a new block forms.
Now we're getting stuff I'm
a
more
sentient
familiar
block
with.
that uses the power of souls from fallen mobs to spread across the other blocks. Once again, the builders' lives are in danger, but after all they've been through, they just don't have the energy to run anymore. Instead, they try to live in harmony with the Warden. They do what they can to deaden the noises by placing carpets or wool blocks all over the city. But in the end, it's no good. Each opening of a chest would send the Warden into a rampage. This is no way to live. And so the ancient builders try to leave their home one final time. They continue deeper into the caves, somewhere that not even the Warden could find them. Though they needed something strong enough to hold it back if it ever tried to invade. And so the builders created strongholds, a place fortified so as to protect it against attack. The ancient builders made winding pathways and hidden doors so they could escape the Warden should it ever break in. And the builders made one final attempt at escape. One last portal that this time would have to work. The end portal. The builders bid farewell to the overworld and jump in, not knowing what might be waiting for them on the other side, and also unsure if they'd ever be able to return.
Dragon.
The ancient builders enter this vast void of open space and begin to set up their new lives, building fortresses to house their resources, loot chests containing enchanted armor and weapons, diamonds and diamond-plated armor, more advanced tools since the days of the Nether, ready to conquer whatever fearsome foes might come their way. Enter the Ender Dragons. That's dragons, plural. Thanks to the amount of Ender Dragon heads mounted on end ships, we can tell that this used to be a plentiful species. The ancient builders came to the end and saw these majestic beasts, how they had complete control over the skies, and they wanted that power for themselves. They wanted to conquer the sky, which until now had been impossible. So they hunted down the dragons and used their wings to create elytra, another resource found in the end ships. These were the builders' prized possessions. So they continued to hunt these creatures to near extinction, much like they had done with other species in the past. It would seem that history continues to repeat. But the builders eventually realize that they're making a mistake. They see how they're bringing an entire species to extinction, and they want to right their wrongs. They use their technology and knowledge from past adventures, using the regenerative powers of the gas tier to create end crystals atop tall obsidian pillars. This will continually regenerate the last Ender Dragon, ensuring that it never dies. The ancient builders can now rest easy knowing that they had saved a species, sort of. Without a mate, you always have a population of one. And it seems like their sins eventually caught up to them. Food was yet again becoming scarce, but not all hope was lost. Defeating an Ender Dragon creates a portal back to the overworld. A few brave souls go through, but most others stay in the end. Although they were running out of supplies, there was one crop that was endlessly plentiful, chorus fruit, but it had some strange side effects. This constant diet of a fruit with teleportation properties causes the ancient builders to slowly evolve into the Enderman, now able to teleport across time and space itself. But this comes at a cost. With this transformation, they slowly forget how to build, though they never truly forget how to pick up the blocks. And this is where the ancient builders spend the rest of their days, a race teleporting through time and space, picking up blocks, the remnants of a once great civilization brought down by their own pride. Meanwhile, the explorers who returned to the overworld reconnected with their old allies, the Illagers. It's here that they tell them stories of their adventures, tales of life-giving lapis, end portals, fierce beasts that they overcame. The Illagers revel at the ancient builders' resources, the elytra made from ender dragon wings, their portal technology. Even though they don't quite understand it all, they worship the ways of the ancient builders, who would tell them stories and protect them from harm. And because they wanted to follow in their footsteps, they too began to experiment. The overworld was still a dangerous place. They needed ways to protect themselves. And so they created the Ravagers, terrifying beasts with even more terrifying origins. The Ravager was created from their fellow villagers. Their unibrow, their green eyes, the noses, even their voices remain after the transformation. That wasn't the only thing that they did to these innocent captured villagers either. In the woodland mansions, large woolen heads of Illagers are found, and in the center of the head is a block of lapis lazuli. The Illagers knew that the ancient builders saw lapis as a magical resource, so they took it and injected it directly into the brains of villagers in the hopes of gaining its incredible power. And you know what? It worked. The Vindicators were born, with incredible speed, power, and eyes that changed from emerald green to lapis blue. This was the last straw for the villagers. According to the mob bestiary, these are the unspeakable acts that get the Illagers cast out from regular society. From here, they would form their own civilization, wandering into the dark forests and taking over the woodland mansions, continuing their pursuit to bring back the ancient builders, whatever the cost. They become what's known as a cargo cult, where a group of isolated indigenous people begin to imitate the practices and technology from more advanced societies, despite not understanding how the technology works. The Illagers would make structures like beds, maps, even end portals, but none of them work because they're only made out of wool. The Illagers don't understand the true nature of these items. But while those don't work, they are able to figure out the secret to new life, and they harness that power in the form of totems of undying. They use this power to create the Vex, the Phantoms, and they even try to create a new human, a new race of ancient builder. They try to create Steve. Throughout the woodland mansions, there are stacks on stacks of blue, cyan, and light blue wool. These are the same colors that Steve and his ancient builder ancestors wore. This was going to be their final experiment, using these woolen blocks and their powers over life and death to become gods, to create their own race of ancient builders. Little did they know that the ancient builders did this exact same thing all those years ago. And sadly, history would repeat itself. After the dust settles, what stands in place of the wool isn't a new race of builders, but instead zombies. The overworld now has yet another dangerous mob to worry about.
Here we are, present
And
day.
thus ends the story of the ancient builders and their influence on the overworld. A land that now lies in ruin, a shell of its former self. And yet despite everything, hope isn't lost. With the ancient builders gone, the overworld has had a chance to heal. There's no one left to over-harvest resources, and so nature begins to return. With the structures built by this ancient race descending into the earth, reclaimed by nature, biomes becoming more diverse. That is, until you show up. The builders' desire for over-harvesting resources and creating life continue through their descendants. You. Now we spend our time deforesting so we can have a nicer new house, gutting the ground of whatever resources are left and killing whatever we see, whether it's hostile or not. It's a story of destruction and selfish gain, of greed and ignorance and hubris repeating itself over and over again. And what's more, this wasn't just a poetic story told to make the game more interesting. The story is a warning to us, the players. Think back to the ending credits of Minecraft. Quote, sometimes I wish to tell them this world you take for truth is merely, and I wish to tell them that they see so little of reality in their long dream. These two beings, these gods, these hosts, they're talking about us. The dream is Minecraft, and while we play it, we fail to see the moral that's being told by these two gods, the truth about reality and how this game reflects our own history. In the 8th century, for instance, Vikings used a lot of timber for shipbuilding, construction, and fuel, which led to them deforesting most of Scandinavia. As they started to run out of resources and land, they began to invade the coastal areas of Europe, like England, France, and Ireland, only to do the exact same thing again, cutting down the trees areas until those places began to lose their forest areas too. Sound like the fishermen and pirates from Minecraft? Europe's colonization of the Americas was for similar reasons, to access and exploit the abundant natural resources there. Even today, we're seeing the same thing with deforestation, burning fossil fuels, fighting one another for more power and control, just like we see with the piglins and the builders and the illagers and the nether, the end, and the overworld. It's a cycle of repeated abuse and neglect. Quote again from the ending. But it would be so easy to tell them. I will tell the player a story, but not the truth. No, a story that contains the truth safely in a cage of words, not the naked truth that can burn over any distance. We are playing the story, and the naked truth that they're talking about is that our world will die if we let it constantly be ravaged of its natural resources. So maybe the next time you log on to Minecraft, you'll see it a little differently. Maybe instead of a flat, blocky world, you'll see a reflection of your own. And remember, it can be beautiful so long as we, just like Steve, learn from the mistakes of the past. It's been a long trope of game theory to prove to you that the hero of the game is actually the villain. In the game of Minecraft, and in the real world, that distinction ultimately falls on us to decide. But hey, that's just a theory. A game theory.
I mean, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that much. Because I don't mind. Just if Minecraft was just propaganda, and it started out as a fun little sandbox game, I honestly didn't know there was so much. I don't know. I'm hoping this last one. I was trying to react to that one. I didn't have too much to say though. I'm hoping this last one.
Rub down of a special face lotion, can I? In a world where we...
I'm hoping that this last one, this one's not a lore so much as like an actual test, so I'm hoping this last one is better.
Are you tired? Worn down? Do you turn to coffee and soda as a little treat to help you get through the day?
Yes.
Even though you feel guilty because you promised to cut down on caffeine this year? Yeah, me too. Nowadays it feels like caffeine is the new drug epidemic, shoved into every corner of our lives in increasing amounts. Coffees, energy drinks, heck, even lemonades are so full of this stuff that they're becoming outright deadly. But caffeine is even more than just your food and drink. More and more recently, skincare products have been used with caffeine to help brighten up the skin and supposedly give you energy. But that can't really work, right? I can't just up and replace my daily Diet Coke with a scrub down of a special face lotion, can I? In a world where we need to be increasingly aware of our caffeine intake, is it possible that we're getting high on caffeine through our very own skin? Hello, Internet! Welcome to Style Theory, the show packed with more energy than a jumbo can of Monster. If you've been subscribed to the Thier's family of channels for a while, you know that I have myself an addiction to Coke. Diet Coke, that is, the soda brand. Don't demonetize me for that on YouTube. I've had a love-hate relationship with the soda for years, and I've tried to quit it multiple times, only to wind up replacing it with yet another diet-based soda. It is bad, my friends, and not just as an example to Ollie, but for my health. Well, I've never experienced any sort of negative health effects from drinking too much soda. I know that drinking a whole load of sugary chemicals ain't great for my body. And so after a year spent covering the caffeine epidemic over on Food Theory, it's now 2024, I'm starting to retire from the channels, and I'm finally prioritizing my health first. And step number one in that process is dealing with my caffeine problem. Now you might be asking yourself, why is this episode about caffeine on Style Theory? MattPat's getting senile in his old years. He announced that he's handing off the hosting role here to Amy, and suddenly he can't keep his channel straight. But now we're actually here for a very specific reason: skincare. You see, for years I've seen ads for caffeinated products that are to energize and revitalize the skin. And that's always made me really curious. How much caffeine would you actually be able to get from these sorts of products? Could a relaxing face mask also replace your daily cup of coffee? Is infusing your skincare creams and serums with caffeine actually doing anything? Or is it just a bunch of marketing hype trying to sell you an overpriced beauty product? That's the test that we've done for you today. And by we, I mean me and my very willing volunteers.
I'm really feeling it. This is not conducive to working. The things I do for you
We appreciate your sacrifice, Tom. Joining me in this caffeine cleanse are some familiar faces from around Team
I have to make sure this one was in sync because it's gonna have real people
very
in it.
different relationships to caffeine, and all of us are very happy to be here.
Thank you, I suppose, for putting me through this wonderful experiment.
Now, for us to do this right, we first have to understand how caffeine affects our body. Caffeine is a stimulant, meaning it makes our body go into overdrive. When we ingest it, it gets circulated through the bloodstream and up to the brain, where it does most of its dirty work. The caffeine molecules bind to these things called adenosine receptors. Now, adenosine is a naturally occurring chemical that helps make you sleepy by acting as a depressant for your system. But adenosine and caffeine look almost identical to the body, which then lets the caffeine push the adenosine out of the way, take its spot, and send that highly focused energy blast straight to your central nervous system. And if that sounds like a drug, well, you're not wrong. It is actually considered to be the world's most widely used drug. In fact, just like other drugs, once the caffeine leaves your system, your body can go through withdrawal symptoms, decreased energy, mood swings, cravings, headaches. Clearly, this is going to be a super fun episode for the four of us. And here's the kicker. Caffeine can take up to 9 days to leave your system. So that right there gives us our first big step of the experiment. In order to see whether caffeinated beauty products give you energy, we first have to purge our bodies of any caffeine remnant that may still be floating around in there. That means that each and every one of us is going to have to go a full 9 days without it to get the most accurate data. No sodas, no coffees, no teas, energy drinks, or both. But while it can take 9 days to fully leave the system, the withdrawal symptoms can start as soon as day 1. So let's just see how we're all sitting at the start of this little experiment, shall we? When it comes to caffeine, I am an addict. I think I'm less an addict to the caffeine than I am to the soda that I drink. I love the flavor of Diet Coke. I've been addicted to it for years, and I have only seen escalating in my consumption over the last year. I used to drink maybe like 3 sodas a day. Towards the end of 2023, it's gotten up to about like 6 to 7, 8, 9. It's a lot. It is a lot. At the time I filmed that clip, I didn't even realize how much it actually was. The FDA recommends consuming no more than 400 milligrams of caffeine a day. When it comes to Diet Coke, the average can has about 46 milligrams, which is about 20 milligrams less than the caffeine in a shot of espresso. So not all that bad until you start adding in more cans. At the rate that I was downing Diet Coke, I was hitting that 400 milligrams almost every single day through soda alone. And that's not including any of the other sources of caffeine that just exist in the world around us, in places like, say, chocolate. I recognize that I have a problem. I recognize that caffeine is in more of the stuff that I'm consuming, and so I want to cut it out. That said, I was a bit of an outlier in our little group. When it comes to everyone else, they prefer their caffeine to be dry roasted, ground up, and infused in hot water.
I have like 2 cups. Maybe 3 cups in a day. I usually drink one when I wake up and then follow that shortly after with a slower cup of coffee. After that, it really just depends on the day. If it's a long meeting day, I might indulge in that 3rd cup of coffee. I really have capped myself at 2, 3 if I'm stretching it.
I'm normally only consuming coffee, a cup of coffee in the morning to get me up throughout the day and like get me going. And then a cup of tea around 3 or 4 p.m. because British, obviously, gotta have some kind of tea in there. That's essentially all the caffeine I will drink. I won't have any caffeine past 4 p.m.
On the days I'm not working out, I'll have 1 cup of coffee because that is all I need. I have 1 and done.
It takes a little over 4 cups of coffee to hit that 400 milligram limit that we were talking about. Now remember that a standard cup of coffee is only supposed to be 8 ounces. To put that into Starbucks terms, that's a short cup. Wait, you've never heard of a short cup? Well, that's because no one ever gets it. It's even smaller than their tall cup. You know, their version of a small, which has 12 ounces. Yeah, so a tall Starbucks coffee is already delivering you almost 2 full servings of caffeine. Looks like Tom and Amy aren't shaping up to be much better than me. Speaking of shaping up, Mr. Workout over here is putting us all to shame with his 1 cup of coffee a day plus his fitness, isn't he?
Days I'm working out, I will take pre-workout for my caffeine boost.
And there lies the catch, my friends. Over on Food Theory, we did an episode all about pre-workouts and sugar. The basics of it all are pretty simple. Pre-workout's a supplement that boosts your energy to, quote, give you a more efficient workout. Think of it like going Super Saiyan. While caffeine tends to constrict the blood vessels in your brain, the mix of caffeine and creatine in a pre-workout, it actually widens your blood vessels throughout your muscles. This increases blood flow throughout your workout, making you feel super strong and energized for a short period of time.
So I volunteered for this episode because I wanted to check from the fitness side of things if caffeine made a difference or not, if it was an energy thing or if it was just a placebo effect for me.
Glad to know that we're getting the full gamut of the caffeine experience with this one, guys. Place your bets now as to who's gonna suffer the most throughout this episode. Is it gonna be me, the Diet Coke addict, Amy, the coffee gremlin, Tom the Bread, or Mr. Workout Casey? Now let's let's talk about what we're actually going to test here. First off, during our 9-day cleanse, we're going to be tracking all of our symptoms to see when they occur. This way, we can gauge 2 main points of data. 1, how dependent our bodies are on caffeine, and 2, what symptoms we should be looking out for when the only caffeine we have in our system would be coming from facial lotions. Then, on day 10, after the caffeine's been fully metabolized out of our system, we're going to divide the experiment into 2 days. Shower day and spa day. On shower day, we're going to be testing a caffeinated soap and body lotion. This day is going to give us the most overall skin exposure in the hopes that more surface area is going to lead to more absorption and better results. On spa day, we'll be getting ourselves a little well-earned relaxation as we try out a caffeinated face mask, serum, and moisturizer. This then will test a highly concentrated dose of caffeine in 1 or 2 targeted areas. After each test, we're going to be tracking whether or not we feel the energy boost when it wears off, and if we get enough to experience any sort of side effect. And hey, if you love seeing the team here going to crazy lengths to answer fashion and beauty's most asked questions, then you're definitely going to want to subscribe. We have a lot more experiments coming up in the future, including our longest experiment ever across any theorist channel. You're not going to want to miss that one. It is full of some very interesting practical advice for a very common problem.
But no way it's your longest theory.
Back to the episode. Going into the first half of the cleanse, I was surprised at how fast we all started to feel the drain. The first thing we noticed, the headaches. I can tell you that right now I am working at a constant low-grade headache, where yesterday it felt like my head was going to explode for about 3 hours. I am not the type of person to lay down and do nothing in a dark, quiet place for an extended period of time, but that's what I did, because that's all I could do.
The TV did that too. That
right now, ibuprofen is my best friend. So I've just replaced one drug with another drug. I do ibuprofen all the time. Galaxy brain moves happening right now. Fun fact, some pain relief medications actually add caffeine to help relieve headaches. So, couldn't have any of those.
First 2 days, headaches. Constantly. I don't drink that much caffeine.
I'm sick right now, but I haven't had any headaches,
The first couple days of this, I was having headaches, and I had to take, some pain relief. Otherwise, I've just been very sleepy.
I would say that the headache wasn't really that bad. I didn't really need to take anything for it. It wasn't usually for very long.
So while Amy and I seem to have the most intense pain, we all felt it during the 24 to 48 hour mark. That actually makes a lot of sense when you look at what a regular dose of caffeine does to your brain. Caffeine narrows the blood vessels in our brain, and over time our brain just becomes used to that. During the period of withdrawal, your blood vessels start to widen again, and the increased blood flow triggers the headaches as your brain basically goes into a state of shock. When it came to sleepiness, that was one that we didn't all come to an agreement on. 2 of the caffeine crew really felt the absence.
After the second night, I went to bed, I think it was 9:30, and got up at 8, and so I slept for almost 11 hours. Did not expect to sleep for that long. My body naturally wakes up around 7 or 8 hours.
Give me some of those hours.
I just fell asleep on the sofa, and that never happens to me. Then went to bed, went straight to sleep, and woke up in total 11 hours later. 11 hours! Normally,
give me some of this sleep, please. I need it right now.
11 hours is crazy.
Looks like the adenosine army came charging back in to reclaim their receptors. Now, it's hard to say exactly why Tom and Casey in particular had that big
I'm only
sleep.
doing this because I'm coming off of a nap, so...
receptors. In general, I'd say that we were all operating at about a 6 out of 10. Casey and Tom were sleeping the days away while Amy and I were shoveling pain relief like there was no tomorrow. But then, Amy made a discovery.
So one of my other resolutions for January was to start exercising in the morning. I started that during the headache part of day 3. I've had a lot less headaches the rest of this period. It's helped me be more awake. Who would have thought? Doing healthy things makes you feel better. I hate that that's the answer.
Well, I'd love to blame Casey for infecting Amy with the fitness bug. It actually has a basis in science. A 2019 study found that people who gave up caffeine and then exercised during their main withdrawal phase managed to alleviate most, if not all, of their symptoms. It all comes back to dopamine. You see, when caffeine attaches to the adenosine receptors, it also releases a little bit of dopamine, which is why without caffeine, people tend to be
less willing to deal with people's BS.
Well, exercise does the exact same thing. So while our bodies were craving another dopamine hit from caffeine, Amy was able to give hers that hit through early morning exercise to replace the normal cup of coffee, curbing the worst of her headaches, though she didn't quite get away scot-free.
So I just feel a little more hazy, like everything is slightly out of focus when I try to focus and work on a specific task. It just makes it a little bit harder to stick to it.
And she wasn't alone.
I found it really difficult to keep focused and to do the deep brain thoughts that one has to do to write theories. You have to think quite hard, and I was struggling.
Casey, Mr. Workout, he was feeling a lot less worked out.
So I've had a couple of workouts since starting this cleanse. Usually whenever I've had my pre-workout, I can really feel it. Doing it without any sort of pre-workout, it feels like it's missing a little something. I honestly am not sure just yet of whether that's just a placebo effect or just from the energy of the pre-workout and the caffeine with that.
Maybe you should try some Sour Patch Kids. Another really good channel told me that one time. But enough of the suffering. At the dawn of day 10, we were all very excited to finally be nearing the end.
I'm so tired all the time.
I'm sleepy.
I am also sleepy.
Okay, we were all very excited and also very, very tired. So let's just jump into day 1 of our testing, which was, what was it again, Amy?
Today is shower day, which means we're testing our caffeinated body soap as well as our body lotion. This is going to basically let us put as much of this over as many surfaces as possible to see if more surface area will really let us feel the effects of this caffeine. So what we're going to do is we're going to take turns hopping into the shower and lathering up.
Ah yes, the obligatory style theory shower on camera moments. Welcome to the club, Casey and Tom. It wouldn't be one of the final style theory episodes that I hosted without me inviting you back in to watch me shower one final time, just like the good old days. Now, this would be the part where I want to tell you how much caffeine is in these caffeinated, energizing bath products, but I can't. You see, I checked the packaging, I checked the website, I checked everywhere I could, and nothing mentioned how much caffeine.
Because it depends on how much you apply, let me guess.
The only proof that we had to go off of was the ingredient list placement, which, let me tell you, did not fill me with a whole lot of confidence. So we've come so far and gone through too much to stop now. Shower time, activate. So I've got here a vitamin C and caffeine facial cleansing bar. Now, this guy says that it's going to help support and energize my healthy glowing skin by boosting my skin's circulation. But again, am I going to be absorbing this through the skin, or is this just a bunch of marketing hype? The fact of the matter is, yeah, our skin should be able to ingest things like medicine, or in this case, caffeine. But the question I have is, will it be able to absorb enough caffeine to make a noticeable impact? Time to hop in the shower and find out. I got straight to work, lathering up as much as possible so I could get that caffeine boost that I've been craving for the last 9 days. Casey and Amy, not far behind. Meanwhile, Tom took his sweet time washing his face. Straight after that, we applied some caffeinated lotion. So it's worth noting that Tom actually had a different lotion than everyone else due to the UK strict product policy. So not only was Tom getting himself a double dose of caffeine, but he was also getting himself a full helping of masculinity. Now that we were all a bit more awake and a lot more sticky, it was time to see if our pain and suffering was going to be worth it. I have slathered myself immediately. I'm not feeling anything. Am I going to be able to absorb the caffeine into my skin and stay awake longer and be more productive? We're going to find out in a couple hours. We all went about our day. Meetings, filming, exercise. We wanted to make this as authentic a test as possible and keep our routines the same as a typical day. That way we could give the caffeine time to put a shock to our system and then potentially wear off like a normal cup of coffee or 5 hours later, it was time for the check-in. First up, me. Let me just say I was, unimpressed. So, since my shower and lotion this morning, I have noticed nothing. Literally zero. I've noticed that my hands are slightly softer because I used a hand lotion on them. Other than that, not a whole lot. My face may have tingled slightly.
I'm a little sad. I would have loved to do something else for caffeine, but
and I think maybe it was because
looks like those Pepsis are sticking around.
Or maybe it was the citric acid. I don't know, but I don't think it was the caffeine. And as far as my mood and my energy levels, I think I would be here regardless. I was ready to write this entire episode off until I found out that everyone else was feeling something, even if it was just a little bit.
I do feel a little bit of energy.
But I do feel more alert today, and I've been more alert and, snappy jumpy than I have for most of the rest of the week.
Heck, Tom even reported having himself a caffeine crash.
I was literally driving home and I had a crash. Not a physical crash, obviously, but I had a caffeine crash, and I literally haven't been able to recover all day. I have felt just as bad, just as lethargic the rest of the day. It's been awful.
I have a very low caffeine tolerance, so if that's the case, I would definitely be
the lotion. That must have done something to my system, I guess.
Was he the one who had the lowest?
Yeah, the crash has been hard. That's been rough.
fascinating. I'm a complete outlier in the group. It could be that something in my system didn't grab onto the caffeine as much. It could be that
You have the
I'm older
highest
than
amount of
83.
caffeine.
It could be that the caffeine I'm used to isn't coming from coffee. But whatever the reason, it defied my expectations and turned
You must
out
have
to
the
be true.
highest
Caffeine
tolerance
products
for it.
can in fact make a difference in your alertness. At this point, all I wanted to do was quit the cleanse, grab myself a cold Diet Coke, and go chow down on some fish food to drown my sorrow. But there was a small silver lining on the horizon, a theorist spa day. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to day 2 of our little caffeine experiment here on Style Theory. Today is Theorist Spa Day.
A little over halfway.
Theorist Spa Day. So you have me, Amy, Casey, and Tom over in the UK taking a break from our daily activities. And what we're going to do today is actually hypercharge our faces with caffeine. You know, it's been a long journey here on YouTube, my friends. I've been making content, grinding away at it for 13 years. At this point, we've done somewhere around 2,400 videos in total, which is kind of disgusting and a whole lot. And so I deserve a day in my final stretch here to just lay back, relax, let everyone else do the work while I try to supercharge my body with a butt ton of caffeine. A brief moment for me to relax, decompress, yes, try desperately to pump some caffeine into my system via 3 more supposedly caffeinated products. So after a lackluster performance on day 1 of using lotions all across my body to try and caffeinate me, today we're gonna attempt something a little bit different. We're flipping the script, as it were. Today we're using hypercharged caffeinated serums and creams all up in here, where it's less about surface area and more about concentration. The lotions didn't do enough, but these guys, these have a butt ton of caffeine in them, and I'm gonna put that butt ton of caffeine on my butt face in order to see if I'm able to feel anything. I am still doubtful, let me know. I am still very skeptical, but hey, if it means that I get to spend like an hour of the day relaxing in a nice comfortable chair, listening to spa music with cucumbers over my eyes, great, I will take that. And if the conclusion at the end of this is, oh, there was nothing, well, I guess a winner is me then. So without any further ado, bring out the creams, the lotions, the serums, whatever I need to slather on my face. First on the list, a face mask. I had a distressing one from Target, since my original one was either lost in the mail, or someone in the office needed a mid-afternoon boost. Either way, Tom, Casey, and Amy, they wound up, well, you'll just have to see it for yourself.
Why is it flesh coloured? I've also never put one of these on myself. I guess something like that. Oh my gosh, that's horrific.
Oh god. That's what I was thinking.
So did you ever cut out the holes in the bologna to wear them as like a face? You know, like they do in Mean Girls?
No.
Mean Girls. Or maybe you put something on his face, he just goes...
No, I never did that.
Alright, ready?
No.
Let's go.
What in the Hannibal Lecter are we doing?
I think I might have dodged a bullet there. But with masks on, it was time to relax. To complete the experience, I tried to fire up some relaxing ocean sounds.
You want to try sleep sounds? Ocean sounds?
Yes.
Great. Here's sleep sounds. Ocean sounds.
I don't want piano, I want the ocean. I want the flippin' ocean.
I don't like Alexa.
Fucking tidal wave. It's literally like I'm being drowned by the surf. This is the least relaxing thing ever. I don't know what's worse, trying to relax to this, or Casey and Amy trying to enjoy a peaceful sunny morning surrounded by the sound of LA traffic. And Tom, well, Tom had to ditch the mask entirely. Turns out he got the biggest surprise of all of us, undiagnosed skin allergy at the age of 29. This was really just a race to the bottom of Misery Mountain. I feel like we as a company had to take a collective L here. We failed at relaxation, but 20 minutes later it was time to swap out our masks for the last 2 items of the experiment, the moisturizer and the serum. To help supercharge things, we actually have a bonus vitamin C caffeine energy serum. And this is specifically called out as an energy serum. If any of these products is designed to make me feel higher energy, higher level, whatever, this is the thing that should potentially do it, right? It's supposed to brighten, firm, and depuff my face. So I'm gonna give this a healthy number of spritzes. I believe what I'm supposed to do is apply 2 to 4 pumps to the clean neck and face area and then follow with moisturizer. It says 2 to 4 to try and give it like a little oomph. I'm gonna try to get like 6 pumps in there just to really work this in. If we're gonna feel anything, I feel like I have to really supercharge it. So here we go. Use the people. I missed. I missed my face. Once the serum dried, we all went in with the last product of the day. But wait! We're still not done! We've got whatever this is. Origin's Gin Zing. It's gonna zing in my face. This is an energizing gel cream with caffeine and also something that I can't pronounce. I looked it up. It's called niacinamide, and it's a fancy word for vitamin B3. Apparently helps you with skin radiance. The more you know. So with all of our serums and creams applied, we had one final chance to prove that they did what they said on the packaging. Energize us. This is it, theorists. Will we come out victorious, or will we wind up with egg on our faces, alongside all the other stuff that we were piling onto them? It was time for the final check-in of the episode, and the results were mixed.
I enjoy a spa day. I love skincare. I love treating myself that way because I care a lot about my skin, but I don't feel like I got any boost from it. Versus, like, I actually feel the most tired today since, like, day 2 or 3 of this experiment, and I can't fully tell you why. My best guess is that yesterday's products really worked a lot better than the ones today.
Have I noticed a change in mood or in anything like that? I would say less so than yesterday. I basically spent the day reading, so it's been a much more relaxed day. So I was able to feel it, but it wasn't as big of a caffeine boost that I think I felt yesterday, or an alertness boost that I felt yesterday. Instead, I noticed a smaller increase, but it was a much longer decrease, much longer. It took something like 6 hours for me to start feeling, oh, I'm getting tired again. This would be about the time I need a caffeine top-up. They must have some effect, because I definitely felt a boost, but it was a much more natural boost compared to the stuff from yesterday. It was much more akin to what I get from coffee, just on a lower level.
Felt more alert yesterday in yesterday's experiment. I felt maybe a teeny bit. I don't know if it was just the adrenaline of having the creepy, slimy thing on my face, but yeah, I would definitely say overall yesterday's was stronger.
But while everyone else was getting some results, I was back in North Carolina, sitting in my attic alone, and feeling nothing but disappointment. Do I feel any different because I absorbed caffeine through my skin? No. No, I most certainly do not. The most that I can say that I have is I have slightly greasy, highlighted skin as opposed to my normal kind of like dryish skin. That's what I got. Even with us putting like 3 layers of gel on my face, nothing seemed to do a difference. Like, my skin feels tighter. Outside of that, though, I feel no different. I don't feel highly caffeinated. I don't feel more energized. I don't feel like the caffeine did anything for me outside of get me to buy a bunch of products just off the hype alone. I'm not lying to you when I say that I was ready to throw in the towel on this one, despite everything that we've been through. Write all of this off as just the placebo effect. Except there was one thing that was truly baffling me. The return of the early stage withdrawal symptoms.
The headache, I'm not sure. It just came out of nowhere and was only for like 2 or 3 minutes. I'm guessing maybe I didn't get enough. It was as much of a boost today as opposed to yesterday. Maybe it's a lack of caffeine, so I'm getting punished for that already.
Maybe it actually is. Let me put it in a context that you might be more familiar with. Nicotine patches. When people are trying to quit smoking, what they're really trying to quit is their addiction to nicotine. Much like caffeine, nicotine also acts as a replacement for naturally occurring chemicals in the brain, changing how it functions, and producing that ever-addictive dopamine rush. To help wean your body off of it, doctors often prescribe nicotine patches or lozenges. And that's exactly what I think we ended up doing with this experiment. Nicotine patches release a steady flow of nicotine into the skin, helping keep the symptoms at bay and easing the withdrawal. Similar to how Tom described the effects of the spa day products.
They must have some effect, because I definitely felt a boost, but it was a much more natural boost compared to the stuff from yesterday. It was much more akin to what I get from coffee, just on a lower level.
The layers of product acted like a patch for him, giving him just enough to take the edge off. A nicotine lozenge, on the other hand, is a larger dose that works its way into your system faster. But while it may help faster, it also won't last as long, and it leaves you more open to feeling that withdrawal creep back in. And that's what I suspect happened to Casey and Amy after day 1. That sudden crash that they experienced, that was like a nicotine lozenge, except it was a caffeine lozenge. But here's the thing, I still don't know why I was the only one unable to feel any of this. this. It
High
could have been the
tolerance.
combination with the lack of sugar, maybe my addiction level was just in a vastly different place than the other three, but in the end, what I did get out of this episode was probably more important than any definitive conclusion.
Here's the thing. I did this experiment because I consumed too much caffeine. Towards the end of the year, I was drinking so much caffeine that I was concerned about myself. And I recognized that I was dependent on it in a way that I didn't want to be. And so the best part of this experiment was reducing my caffeine intake, going from a high to absolute zero to help reset my system and recalibrate how I operate on a day-to-day basis. I feel better knowing that I'm not just ingesting this all the time. I also feel better knowing that I can stay up for pretty much all the time that I need to without just constantly downing caffeine. Yes, there's like maybe an hour and a half in there where I start to dip a little bit, but for the most part, I'm pretty solid, just like I am on caffeine. So I'm hopeful from here forward, I'll be able to keep my caffeine intake lower than what it was. Maybe not absolute zero, because it takes away a lot of beverages that I like. You know, I like the taste of Diet Coke. I like the taste of tea. And so it's one of those things where I
like
miss
cherry
the
Pepsi.
flavor, but apparently I don't miss the caffeine as much as I expected to. I'll probably try to mix those back into my diet in small amounts and just stay aware of it moving forward.
The others shared a similar sort of feeling.
I might cut down on the amount of caffeine that I'm ingesting. I might cut down on like my cup of tea in the afternoon. I might turn that to a decaf tea so that I'm not riding another caffeine high before my evening and going to bed. But one of the things I have enjoyed is that I've been able to sleep. I have basically been able to hit the pillow and just fall straight to sleep. It's been wonderful.
I definitely consume much more caffeine than I used to. I want to cut back a bit. Not that I consume a lot, but I definitely want to reel it back in a little bit. I'm gonna bet that my pre-workout, when I take it again for the first time after this gap without it, that it'll have that potency again.
I think there are a lot of different ways to get caffeine into your system, and caffeine, much like everything, is about management and moderation. With great caffeine comes great responsibility. You need to really keep track of how much you're putting into your system, because your system can get overloaded, and that's why we get the crashes and the headaches. I don't think all caffeine is bad. I don't think you need to cut caffeine completely out of your diet or your regimen, your life. I think you just need to make sure you're doing it in a way that's healthy and not becoming dependent. Much like almost anything, you just need to take care of yourself and find where your happy medium is. And my happy medium is getting my darn cup of coffee in the morning.
Well said, Amy. So, did we prove that the products are nothing but hype? No, actually. I'm kind of surprised to say that. But I also can't say that I recommend them as a replacement if you're feeling that midday drag. Though they did leave my skin feeling very refreshed and radiant, so I guess they weren't a complete bust. My biggest takeaway from the whole experience, it's really easy to lose sight on how much you're relying on something to get you through the day. All week we were desperate to go back to our usual habits. By the end, we cleared the hurdle enough to see just how far down the rabbit hole we've gotten. And being able to prove to yourself that you're not dependent on a substance, that right there is a lesson that you can take to the bank or the barista. But hey, that's just a theory. A style theory. Keep sharp.
If you want to learn more about how your body works, check out our One Sock episode by clicking the box on your right. Things get a little hot under the covers, if you don't mind me saying. Or
I think I actually reviewed that one. Is that one of the ones we reacted to? Ugh. Yeah, I'm actually not feeling good right now, but I did actually take a nap, and that's why my hair is kind of a mess. I did actually take a short nap, and I came out of it feeling awake enough to do this, despite the plan. Obviously, I'm not good enough to ski this weekend. Plus, I have an appointment tomorrow for unrelated things. I gotta say, tonight, I didn't really love everything. As always, I think lately the style theory and the food theories have sort of been my favorites. And speaking of which, I just want to double check. I do drink Pepsi. The 20 milliliter ones I know are 69, and the 16.9 ones, which are the 6 packs that I buy, they're 53, and they do seem to be a little much for me. I only drink them when I'm really tired. I didn't drink one today because I don't have to work tonight, and I do want to actually sleep. Didn't fall asleep during the nap, so clearly not ready yet. Probably because it's too early for me to go to bed. My normal is actually, my go-to is actually a 29 milligram can of mug root beer. I make root beer floats every day. That's my addiction, is root beer floats. I make them every day. I have big things where I'll put some vanilla ice cream in there. I ultimately didn't make one today because, again, I'm sick. I wanted to sort of keep the sugar down. It's my intention to drink twice as much water as I normally do. Real quick, food theory. Oh no, I didn't hit the search button. Hold on. Food theory. Yeah, where uploads on here? Yep. Okay. So yeah, the latest food theory was actually the bubblegum episode, which I've already reacted to. So that's actually it for the week. Sorry my reactions weren't as good as last time. As I said, I am sick. I did want to get it done, and I just honestly really wanted to watch it because even if I didn't seem like I was reacting that much, I wasn't a huge fan of the film theory. The game theory, I know I wasn't reacting much, but I was actually really enjoying it because I do watch a lot of Minecraft, but I just watch the vanilla Minecraft players, as they call it. Skeppy, Rec Rap. I never was a Dream person, believe it or not. And I'm not going to go into the whole debacle of what's going on with him. And then Bad Boy Halo. By far my favorite. Skeppy was my favorite during the COVID. And lately, anytime there's a Donnie Bobes video posted, I have to watch that. Like to the point that he posted with Linux and Liger, he posted an actual vlog where they actually in the real world tasted Mexican, and just because of their personalities I actually watched. Kind of that way, that's kind of what happened with MattPat. Was like, I watched his videos not just because of the content, but because of the personality, and even when his videos aren't good, like I know I completely disagreed with the last game theory, which was the controller holding. Even when I disagree, I still want to watch the video, see his point of view, and as I said in that video, like maybe there's a point where like for some people it's different, you know. And I think that that's just driven home by the food, I keep wanting to call it a food theory, by the style theory there, where when they talked about the actual food, how we all have different tolerances. There's also my medication, prescription, of course, where, yes, there is a negative reaction from caffeine, which is why I can't have that much caffeine. I used to drink, for a couple of months, I didn't know what was wrong with me. I was drinking tea that had an 89 milligram caffeine content. Miserable. And then I even tried their 69 milligram, and that was too much. Like 59 milligrams is honestly my limit. Like I always tell myself that I got a 60 milligram limit. No, I could only have one a day. I'm not going to be replacing it with these patches, though. Needless to say, it's like MattPat said. I didn't know MattPat drank that much caffeine. Yeah, that would never be me. Even my family doesn't. Like my dad will drink coffee, but he's probably only getting like 150 milligrams. And I only drink the Pepsi on days where I'm really, really tired. Except today's an exception because I actually want to crash and sleep. And on normal days, I drink the caffeinated mug root beer, the can. But yep, I at least got enjoyment out of that last one. We've still got plenty more to go. Excuse me? I need to eat something right now. And hopefully I'll be able to